To have you here today, and we'll get going here in just a second. Just a couple of quick notes before we begin. Keep in mind that the AI Writing Summit 3.0 is brought to you by High Level. And not only will we have two special presentations, one called AI Powered Community Building, and the other called the AI Blueprint Turning Customers into Raving Fans. And those will be hosted by Emma Jackson, who is the Senior Manager of Product Marketing over at High Level. Look for those special sessions in your dashboard. But there's also going to be a live raffle on Friday midday Pacific time. And you could win a brand new Apple iPad. And so it's free to attend that, but you do need to register to attend. So I believe that Elisa is going to put that link in the chat box. There's also a button on this page, I believe, where you can click on that and get registered. And so be sure and register for that, and we will see you there on Friday. Also, do not forget to grab your copy of the AI Writing Summit 3.0 Gold Pass. It'll give you lifetime access to all of the recordings and transcripts from the entire summit, including both the keynote interviews and the panel discussions, as well as the special presentations I just mentioned. Plus, you'll also get over $6,000 worth of courses, masterclasses, workshops, and prompt engineering tutorials, and just a whole bunch of other resources. And you'll get it all for probably less than you spent at Starbucks last month. Just a note, if you listen to a lot of the keynote interviews, I say in there that the Gold Pass has a value of about $4,500. And that was done, those interviews were done a few weeks ago. And so the Gold Pass has grown since then. So it's actually, the number on that is actually over $6,000 worth of courses and masterclasses and other resources. So be sure to grab your copy of that. You should go right now and do that before life gets in the way and you forget to do it. So we're going to take about 45 minutes here this afternoon and do a deep dive into Beyond the Basics, Advanced AI Strategies for Modern Storytellers. Excuse me. This panel moves past the introductory AI writing techniques to explore sophisticated strategies for experienced creators. So let's meet our panelist. First up, we have Bruce Barnes. He's also known as the Logical Intuitive. He is an expert in the areas of mindset, wellness, communication, and AI integration. With a background in computer programming, Bruce honed his logical thinking, a skill complemented by a personal health journey, which cultivated his intuition. So welcome, Bruce.
Thank you.
Next up is Dana Pittman. Dana is a certified development editor, USA Today bestselling author, and the chief storyteller at Danya Tales. She helps writers write addictive romance and fantasy novels. Welcome, Dana.
Thank you for having me.
Next up is Lee Schulman. Lee is an author and writing mentor living in Argentina. She guides writers as they write books and design business strategies for their writing lives. She founded the Inspired Writer Community, an international group of women who are writing, publishing, and building writing businesses. Welcome, Lee.
Thanks for having me.
Also, we have Lise Cartwright. When Lise is not channeling her inner Lorelai Gilmore, she is the creative strategist behind Hustle and Groove. With 40-plus best-selling books written, she helps multi-passionate entrepreneurs ditch the should-do marketing rules and create strategies that feel good and, by the way, work. Lise was also the head coach of our highly successful Book Profits Accelerator program for several years. And she's going to be helping us with our InfoStack AI Hub platform, which is going to go live here in a few months. And it's going to have all kinds of exciting features. I'm not going to go into it right now, but I want you guys to keep an eye out for that, for more information on this. We'll have it coming very soon. And so welcome, Lise.
Thank you.
And then also we have Shauna. Shauna Smith is the powerhouse behind the Marketing Muse 360, a creative agency redefining how tech startups and entrepreneurs scale through branding, AI, and strategy. Do we have Shauna?
She hasn't arrived yet, no.
We don't have Shauna. Okay. Well, hopefully she'll show. We've had panelists show up late a couple of times here over the last day or two, and so if Shauna shows up, we'll be glad to have her. So, uh, anyway, let's go ahead and jump right into the questions. And so, what's the most sophisticated prompting technique you've developed for nuanced character work? Bruce, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, it's a great question because it's for I'm writing a self-help novel, and I used what I refer to as a dream-inspired character evolution. This is my main character came to me several different ideas, but the way I wanted her to meet the mentor, which is based after me, it came to me in a dream and stuff, and I kept getting inspired on how to have the interaction when they first meet and the dialogue and everything. And it's like, ooh, that's really good and stuff. And I was waking up, writing notes, and it's like, go back to sleep and have a little more of a dream. And it's like, okay, I really appreciate these wonderful inspirations, but I'd like to get some sleep in that. But I used my AI assistant then and brainstormed and refined the different interaction and dialogue and everything. And instead of just giving the AI a list of traits, I fed it the emotional core that came in the dream and that, and prompted for different dialogue options and that, and I maybe pick a few different pieces from the different dialogue options in that, and just kind of refine that, and kept going, and just got a really wonderful interaction and scene developed that way.
Perfect. Okay. And so Dana, let's get a take from you on what's the most sophisticated prompting technique.
I would say one of the most sophisticated prompting techniques is developing your characters around your frag structure. I think one of the things like we underestimate is the fact that when you're writing, your characters are changing as you move through the story. And a lot of times people create prompts or create profiles based on when they start the story. But I write romance in the way that they engage with the other characters and the way they engage with the love interest and the way they engage with their world changes act by act. So you can prompt to be able to include like how they're evolving, how they are interacting, whether their dialogue, how they are evolving in their internal changes, as well as the changes that they have in their goals as the story progresses. So that's another way where you kind of get a very rich character that's evolving along with the story so that your story continues to grow as you move through the novel.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you. Lee,
You're
how
welcome.
about you?
So, similar to what Dana said, I have 4 questions that I always ask people to ask their characters. What do they think they want? What do they want? What are their fears and what are their flaws? Because what they think they want and what they want is is basically the character's arc over the course of a book. And then the flaws and the fears are what get in the way, and that's basically what creates the scenes. So I will put that into ChatGPT, or I use ChatGPT more than any other right now, and ask along with my structure and my outline, whatever I have it at that point, and say, what are the answers to these questions along the way? And it really helps and one thing I think is important to say with AI in general is I never take it too seriously because there's always mistakes. Today, for example, today I was feeding something in and I was talking about my characters, and suddenly I realized the AI thought that my soldier character was male and older, but my soldier character is young and female. So you always have to kind of keep that in mind when it says what's going on. And that's actually a great way that the human part really comes in. So you're always checking, like, are you right? Are you doing what I want you to do?
Right.
So then you have all those steps, and then you go and you take a look, you have it scene by scene what your character wants and how they're changing, and then you can really shape it the way you want to, sort of take it
And it
away
can
from.
veer off into the weeds really easily.
Oh God, yes.
You don't keep
If you're not in the
a really
weeds,
good
what
eye
are you
on it.
doing with AI?
Yeah.
That's when it's time to be like, okay, I'm going to shut down for a minute and go do something else. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Lee. And Lise, I know that you write mostly nonfiction, so I'd love to kind of get a nonfiction take on
Yeah.
prompting from you.
Yeah, so it's so interesting just listening to the way that you guys use it. So I'm a little bit different in the way that I wouldn't call this character development, other than I weave stories into all the books that I have, and they're like my stories. So how I'm using AI is more along feeding those stories into the AI to make sure that they flow with the rest of the story. But I also use I guess you would call it character development, and I use personas. So for just my membership in particular, I have 4 different personas for my members, and so those personas are fed. And I use Magi, so I'm not using any AI language model individually. I use it all within Magi. And so if I have, a startup Sally, or I've got a launching Lucy, all of those traits and all of those things are built into Magi. So I that's how I use it. I go in there and say, hey, I've got a startup Sally, and this is what she's struggling with. Help me create like a 90-day plan. So slightly different nuances, but that's the process that I use it for. But specifically with my books, I have a story bank. And so I feed all of that into a persona I call Nurture Natalie, that just has all those stories in there so that I can just pull from them whenever I'm writing a specific book and I need a story that I can't remember. There's so many different stories. And so that's how I use it. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
And so, the next question is, can you explain your process for training AI on your specific writing style? What works and what doesn't? So, Bruce, how about you?
Yeah, it's just that with the self-help novel, one of the things my 3 pillars, mindset, wellness, and communication. I wanted my book to have those different areas, but I didn't want it to be just a boring brain dump. So I came up, I was reading a book that was teaching through story, and so that's what I figured. Talked with my AI assistant. It's like, okay, based on this, can we do that with my book? So we started doing a brainstorming with that. So when it started down this path of this self-help novel, I had trained my AI assistant with, just kind of doing a brain dump of my life history with my personal, health journey, my work journey, my business, everything. So it understood, my background, but also because of the way I, shared all of that, it understood my style of communication and my tone and everything. So, I used that, and we, saved that, and this is okay. This is my style and my tone and everything. So, well, then as we're going through the story itself, different ideas for each character. Says I want, like the other panelists were sharing. Says keeping it true to that particular character and what they would do or wouldn't do. I also want to keep my tone and everything. So if it comes up with some ideas on suggestions on the scene or the dialogue, it's like, okay, that's one, it's not my style. So I kind of, kind of correct the AI. It's like, no, that's not, not the style that we want to do. Or with a particular character, no, that character wouldn't approach it this way. So as we're going through the story, it's kind of continuously refining the training and for the style and writing and everything. So it's a kind of an ongoing process throughout the whole writing journey.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. I forgot to mention for the attendees here, we will have a question and answer period at the end. And so if you come up with questions, you think of questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat box. Elisa will kind of save them up for us, and we'll see if we can have a quick question and answer period at the end and get all your questions answered. So Dana, let's get a take from you on explaining your process for training AI.
Well, first of all, this has already been really good. I think the first thing I want to start with, which is out of order, is I just like to tell people don't be afraid to teach it what you want it to know, right? And so part of that is like having staple things that you can either include as attachments, or I like to just create my own prompt sequences in Notion so I can just copy and paste, sort of walking through like, here's my pen name, here's what my reader's expectations are, here's my tone, here are some of the tropes that I use, so that you are sort of guiding it in establishing a foundation. You also may want to consider having examples, having other manuscripts that you've completed before so that you can be able to have a base to compare it to. And then always like validating and paying attention, because you are in the driver's seat, paying attention and using those as opportunities of a redirection, right? Because it can go off. But at the end of the day, I always say it's like AI is like a genius toddler hype on candy. It's going to go every which way it can go, right? And so it's up to you to sort of keep steering that ship and keep driving it forward. So having a lot of those things, especially if they're staples to your brand and to your reader promise, already available, whether it's text files that you can attach or as, to copy and paste it in the body. And then if you have differing pen names, understanding what your tone is, what type of instructions, what are the readers wanting from that book, and how do you want them to feel after they read that story as well. And so having that type of information, and that's just the foundation on top of everything else that we do, but it is a great starting point so that it narrows that sort of playing field as far as recommendations and suggestions when it comes to your output.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you. And Lee, how about you?
So I'm not as organized as Dana, and that's very much my process. Like I really talk a lot about the chaos of creativity, and I really like to dive into that. And then the other thing that I don't use AI to generate words for me, partially because a lot of the people, the publishers and the editors that I work with, whether they're that are actually or agents too, want nothing to do with AI. So in order to respect that, I want to be able to say AI did not write this for me. But the other thing is often when AI generates something for me, because I have done that for social media and other things, or I play around to say, hey, can you write this story? I want to see what you can do. I don't like what it generates because it's too flat and I don't like what comes out, and it drives me crazy trying to parse my words, what my words would be from what the AI would say. So basically what I do is I will write something and then put it in and say, please give me line by line feedback. And then that allows me to work with the AI and with my document so that I can kind of figure out, well, what is it that I want? And sometimes I'll say, all right, I don't want to use that word. Give me some ideas of other ways to say this, which that has worked really, really well for me. What I also do, when I said I wasn't as organized, I will go in and I will say something. So when I was saying, the AI didn't know that my soldier was a female and younger because I didn't tell it. And that process of saying like, oh, wait, there's this, and oh, wait, there's that, helps me recognize where my gaps are. So I can then fill in those gaps, and then that leaves me to my next draft.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I forget to tell it stuff, and then I get the output from it, and it's like, oh crap.
Right.
It's not
And you're
its
like,
fault.
and
It's
then,
my fault.
and
I
then.
forgot to tell
Yeah.
you that. Okay, Lise, how about you?
Yeah, you know what? I'm kind of the same as Lee. I don't actually use the AI so much to write my books. I do it more from a refinement, but I do use it to do a lot of my like emails. And so the way that I've trained it to do that is, I've fed it, a whole bunch of previous emails that I've personally written in the past. And then also things like I'm a huge like sort of television person in terms of I'm always pulling things from Friends, Gilmore Girls, Sex and the City, right? Like I'm very much aging myself here. But those are the things that I use. And so I've fed that into, it's, basically my brand voice that I have in Magi. so that it pulls things from that so that I don't have to remember. Because that's the thing, like I don't, yes, I watch, I'm actually watching Gilmore Girls, I think for the 50th time right now. So I've got Gilmore Girls down pretty well, but I can't remember everything from Sex and the City and Friends. So I reference stuff like that a lot. And so that's more where I lean into with the AI, is training it on things like that. And it's great at pulling those things. Now, just like we've all said, I still have to go and make sure that whatever it said actually did happen in the episode that it's referencing, because it can make stuff up very easily.
Oh, easily. Yeah. Lisa, I'm curious, do you use AI to write your outreach emails?
Yes. Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Always using my brand voice, because I'm pretty casual. So
Yep.
I don't want it to ever sound super formal. And because I've been using Magi for, probably 2 years now, it is 95% accurate on its
Mhm.
output for emails specifically,
Mhm.
which makes it really easy to
Yes.
write.
Saves huge amounts of time. Um, okay, well, listen, which AI models do you guys use for different creative tasks, and why have you made those choices? Bruce, let's start with you again.
Yeah, so primarily I've been using ChatGPT for most of the um, different writing and brainstorming and refining the ideas and that. So do a little bit with Merlin, which has access to multiple AI models and that. So you can put in what I kind of like about that is you can put in the same prompt, whether asking a question or whatever, and then just select a different AI model and see, compare the different outputs on that. Is kind of a interesting way to see how each one responds in that. But one of the things that I am planning on doing, because with my self-help novel, with the setting, the location, and that's is I want to do a little more actual research on different areas of the location and that. So I'll probably be using Perplexity and that for some of that. But for right now and stuff, I've primarily been using the ChatGPT.
Hmm. Okay, great. Dana, how about you?
I mean, different ones for different things. So I probably would say the majority is ChatGPT. I love to brainstorm and plot and do market research. I also like using Perplexity if I'm writing social media posts, if I'm creating content to market my books. I love to use Claude. If I have like really big, like I'm working on a series and I have 300 or 400,000 words worth of content that I'm trying to brainstorm for a book for or something like that. And then I tend to like using Gemini if I'm trying to take a big manuscript and distill it down to smaller components so that my VA can create social media content and things like that. So I typically will choose by how responsive it is and how intelligent, which is I'm using that loosely. I find that it interacts with how I like to think. And then if I'm trying to do like bigger projects, I'm looking at Claude or Gemini mainly because of its capacity and to be able to, look at 150 or 200,000 word manuscript and be able to sort of distill things down. And so
Hmm.
I just kind of pick and choose according to what I'm doing. And I just have my personal favorites and go-tos for certain tasks.
Yeah, a lot of that is personal preference, right? I
It
mean,
is.
a lot of those platforms will do the same thing everyone else does, but in slightly different ways. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I agree.
Lee, how about you?
So I've been using T longer than any other platform. So I guess it knows me better. So the output I get is better, or is I'm more comfortable with it. Lately, I've been using Claude a lot more. And sometimes, if let's say if I have a question or a series of questions, I'll ask both just to see what it will say. I did that to edit a small piece once and asked for that line by line feedback, and it was really fascinating to see how it found different ways of approaching it. And recently I've been using Perplexity for research. And again, I'm pretty chaotic with the way I begin everything. And there's just one story I have to say. So there's a book that I'm working on now that this is about perplexity. There's a book that I'm working on now. I'm working on, I had finished it, I sent it out, queried it, got a few bites. The feedback I got was, okay, it needs to be rewritten. So now I'm rewriting it. And there's a thread in it of medicinal plants. And I had done all the research, quite a while ago, and I put that same research into Perplexity, and it brought up this image of this plant. It's a ridiculous looking plant. It looks like a Muppet, basically. It looks like this ridiculous little animal, and it's just a whole bunch of them, and they look like they'd be talking to you because it has a mouth and even teeth. And so, of course, I was going to use it in my book. It's YA. And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, wait, I didn't know that was medicinal. And if I'm looking at the list and it doesn't say it's medicinal, so I asked, oh, wait, is this plant also medicinal? And it said, well, in the literature and the research, no, but you being used by indigenous people, yes, which added a dimension to my book that I had not even considered, but was actually really
Interesting.
important. So I'm
Yeah.
like, thank you. So other things I use, I like Magic AI to generate images. I will warn you, they are often really creepy and ridiculous, which is what I like about them. And I would say though, and then there's also things like Pseudo-Write and ProWriter Aid that are really great for seeing patterns in your book. Like, let's follow this theme. How many times? I mean, you can also use find, replace, or just find for how many times if you use the word look or said. But those give you a sort of bigger view so you can really see the patterns in your book, which I find really fascinating.
By the way, for the attendees here, if you look at the recorded interviews, the keynote interviews, we had Stuart on from Pseudo-Write, and he does a kind of a deep dive into Pseudo-Write. So look for that, and you get a lot more information on Pseudo-Write. And so, Lise, how about you?
Yeah, so I exclusively use Magi, which is an all-in-one, right? So you can access all the language models in one space. And I made that choice because it's completely private and ChatGPT knows nothing about all the things that I'm doing, which is what I prefer. So I actually don't even use ChatGPT inside Magi. I predominantly use Claude 3.5. That's kind of my go-to. And because the majority of what I do is writing, Claude is the best as for everything that I've done in terms of its output for me. The other thing that I really like about using Magi is that it also has a whole bunch of image language models in there. And I really love the Flora, like there's a Lux Flora one in there, and it's a fantastic for actually doing your own kind of photo shoot. So you can upload photos of you and then the outputs are really good. So those are predominantly the two they use almost daily. And then Perplexity and Gemini kind of come in from a research perspective, but predominantly Claude is my go-to as long as it's contained within Magi.
So do you use that one? What did you call it? Flora?
The Lux Flora is what it's called. It's a language model that's in there that you can basically create a persona based on your images. So you upload about 20 is the bare minimum, 20 to 50 images of yourself, and then you create all these different prompts of the different situations that you want to find yourself in. And so I use it all the time for
Like me running, me reading a book, or
like
whatever.
I'm
Yeah.
traveling full time. I don't have time to go and have like photo shoots all the time. So not that I need do that anyway, but more for, if I need to create an image for a blog post or, I just launched a podcast and I was like, I don't even have myself sitting in front of a podcast microphone. So I went and created that. And so if you're looking at my podcast and you see my photo, it is completely AI generated, but it is so close. My husband couldn't even tell that
Yeah.
it was AI generated. That's how good the Laura Flux is inside Magi.
Nice. All right, cool. Okay. So, how do you guys train AI to recognize and avoid your personal writing cliches and or weaknesses? And this also has to do with, how do you maintain authenticity when you're writing with AI? Bruce?
Well, this is Yeah, like I said before, it's kind of an ongoing process. Never really stopped training it, um, but based on the examples that I give as far as okay, what words do I use a lot? What do I yeah, how do I cliches or whatever? It's just identify different things to be aware of, but uh, if it generates something that's too generic and that is I'll challenge it and to you know go back and revisit and what my voice and everything is. But if it sounds a little bit too formal and that, but because I'm more casual and in the tone and voice and that, but it's kind of an ongoing dance, and that's is with the AIs is you're partnering with them with sharing your vision and intuition of what you're writing, and you know comparing it to what the AI is generating, and you go back and forth and do brainstorming and refining, and through that refining process you're still kind of revising and fine-tuning the training so that it'll get better each time around
Yeah.
and that.
And
But
every time you're on it, you're training it more.
yeah, and
Right.
it's amazing how it really picks up on after a while, and that on the learning, and that it starts, wow, okay, I didn't have to correct it this time. But it's
Right.
like with anything, this is that with my computer programming background, this is, I mean, it's a program, so it's programmed to give you a response, whether or not it's correct. It's
Right.
it's programmed to give you a response no matter what. So if it doesn't sound right, it says obviously you want to double check and make
Yeah.
sure that it's
You're never going to
factual and
stump the
that.
panel. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Right. So, all right. Thanks, Bruce. Dana, how about you?
Um, how do you train it on to give you the output? That was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
question.
How do you train AI to recognize and avoid your personal writing cliches? Like avoid stuff that you don't want it to say. Uh,
Yes.
and then how do you keep your authenticity, basically?
Great question. Okay, and now I feel like she's like, you're so organized. I am so organized. So I have lists, lots and lots of lists. But I keep a list of things that I just don't like that I already know I don't like. And I just feed it into it, especially when you have something like Claude and it has a very large project knowledge that you can add to. Also, I'm not afraid to be very clear. And I mean, I sometimes feel like I laugh at myself because I'm like, okay, why are we doing this again? Okay, we have already talked about this, right? But I think it does make it more fun too. So I have a list. I like to have like a baseline of information, like I said before. And also, there's a lot of hard edits. Even when you get things that are exactly what you want, there are just when you're a writer and you like words and you like getting in there, you're massaging everything. And so I think it's the bigger question to me a lot is like, what is the baseline that you need to help you get to the next step that is allowing you to do? And then from there you kind of can pick up and running. Or you may, have examples or previous chapters or making sure it understands where you're going and where you're coming from and going to, and all to just help it to basically like weed out of a lot of the things that you don't want because it has access to everything, right? I'm
Hmm.
quoting. And so it's like, but you want a very specific lane. And I think the more that you use one, the more you understand how to prompt to get the output in the end that you want. And I think that's a benefit of using just certain ones for certain things, even though there are so many that you can choose from. And then I think in the end, you just have to decide like, how do you want it to feel in like have your heartbeat and have your like your zhuzh on it, And that usually comes after you get past that and then you're in there and you're getting in there and me, I'm laughing, I'm talking to it, all of the things that writers do. And I think for everybody that's different, but you have to define that for yourself so you understand then how do you start and what are those things that you need to do to jumpstart the process and how you decide to prompt it so that it gets to the place where you're still having an enjoyable time with the writing process while still having access, right, to the information that we don't know that helps us to create better stories, better narratives, or better creating our marketing materials, etc.
Awesome. Thank you. And Lee,
You're
how about you?
welcome.
So I don't like to put too much of my writing into any AI because I am using things that could be potentially used for training. So I don't want to put too much of my writing in one place at the same time. So one thing I will do is I'll put in a smaller piece and we'll have it look for words. And I do have lists. I do have some lists. Like once I get through my first draft, I get a little more organized. But there's a book, Right to Done, who, and I'm blanking on the name of the author. So if anyone else knows, please tell me. He has lists in that book of what you can look for that are things that many authors used a little too much, or some words that just aren't needed. So that's a really nice way to clean it out. And also going line by line feedback forces you to really look at things line by line so that you do have to pay attention to what things are. You can also go backwards and do the line by line backwards, which is tedious, but it really forces you to think about, well, what is it that I'm saying? How many times am I saying this? My characters have a tendency to clench their stomachs clench a lot. So I ask for that, but please tell me the body language because body language is so important. What body language? Please highlight the body language so I can see. Am I doing this over and over and over? Um, and also Sudowrite and ProWriting Aid are really good for seeing those things where you can sort of say, all right, show me, this is a theme I have in my book, or this is a theme I have in my story. Show me all the instances where that particular theme shows up. So then you can go in and you can really look at the progression of that theme over the course of a book or over the course of a story and say like, well, is this showing development or am I just repeating the same thing or something that's not useful so I can get rid of it? So you know how people always say that AI, it's iterative. And for some reason, the word iterative kind of makes my brain blank out because I'm like, what do you mean it's iterative? But I guess that's exactly what I mean, where you try one thing and you check it through and you try another thing and you check it through. Because I think the idea, like AI is fantastic and it has improved everything I do in so many ways, and I do use it for my emails and I use it for my social media, but it gets a lot wrong. And one thing I have noticed with ChatGPT recently is it's not listening to me. It's just not listening. So, as you know, even if I'm saying, look, I don't like using this phrase, please stop using it. And maybe it'll go away for a few queries and then it comes back. And if AI asks me if I want more grounding exercises, I'm going to lose my mind. I don't want any more grounding exercises. But it's kind of fun to realize that. So like when you're saying, you're joking around, you're laughing, I get annoyed and I'm like, you're annoying me. And you forget that you're not talking to anybody. You're kind of talking to partially yourself. So yeah, it's an iterative process, and I think it still requires patience, but allows you to see things that you would not have seen otherwise on your own.
I think that's kind of one of the fun things about it is that it's not a human being. And so
It could
uh,
be rude.
every once in a while, I'll get mad at it and I'll start yelling at it and swearing at it. And it's okay. It doesn't care. It's not a human being, It's just and it'll go, oh, sorry, But anyway, thanks, Lee. And Lise, how about you?
Yeah, so I with my brand voice persona specifically, which I use with Claude predominantly, it does tend to think that I'm on like a happiness crack vibe time, right?
Right.
So I go back to him and say, look, yes, I'm like happy, positive most of the time, but let's not jam that down everyone's throat by making like coming out like I'm like this massive wellness positive guru. So I quite often have to go back and just kind of pare it back down because it just goes way too far. And I mean, that's what we've all said. I think the biggest takeaway is that you have to know your style and what you like and what you don't like and stick to it. And if you don't do that, then AI will 100% run off on its own. And you will end up with something that does not read very well. So I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, is that if you're kind of in that phase of, if you're just kind of starting out, then really get used to going through what the AI gives you, and then saying, I don't like that, or this is great, more of this. So I think the more that you know yourself and what you want and what you don't, AI actually then becomes really helpful. But if you don't know that, then it's gonna be a bit bumpy initially.
Right. Right.
Can I add something to that before you move
Sure.
on? I
Yeah,
think
Dana,
that's
go
the
ahead.
other part and I think it's a bridge between what we're talking about as we kind of round robin this, is the fact that it also can help you get really good at articulating what you want, right? Because you have to explain. It's like, no, don't do this. Well, what do you want me to do? Well, I mean, just do the thing that I told you to do last time again, the way I said it before. And it's like, wait, what? Right. So you really have to get really clear about like how you are articulating what you want, how you want things to feel, where you want it to go. And a lot of times it can be just you doing that is the difference. It's not about the output. It's getting really clear. And then you're like, that's what I wanted. Right. And then I guess it's the same thing if you were brainstorming and you were going back and forth and you're spitballing in person and you're not, you kind of get that same outcome because you're getting really clear about what you want, and then help you to be able to identify when you get that.
Awesome. Thanks, Dana. And then, so it looks like we've had a couple of questions come in. Let me check here real quick. Let me just read this. How do you take what GPT gives me, then rewrite it or make it personalized? For example, if you were going to upload a book to Amazon KDP, you have to say, yes, AI assisted, but don't have to disclose you used AI, or yes, I used AI, or could not, or could get penalized. Explain the best strategy to make it unique and personalized. Lisa, maybe you can answer that.
I think it comes back to, and this is why I don't start with AI when I write a book, right? Like if we're specifically talking about a book, I just write it from my own thing. Like I'm nonfiction, so I'm always writing from my perspective. So it feels weird to me to go to AI to start that process, but I absolutely use it to refine it. So if you're starting with AI in terms of writing kind of like the first draft, then you kind of have to step into being an editor when you go back through that draft. And now you've got to insert your voice, and you're basically rewriting. You basically need to go in and predominantly rewrite and add the human element. And I don't know that I can really teach you what the human element is, other than you know that when you go through it. Like if you're writing books, you're reading books. And so if you've read books, you can kind of just tell when something just doesn't land. So I think that if you're using AI to kind of outline or even just kind of do an initial first draft, your best way to avoid Amazon blacklisting you, which is where they're heading, right? They're asking you to disclose whether you've AI assisted or AI generated. And the writing's on the wall, as far from my perspective, as to why they're asking those. So I think that if you struggle to write that first draft and use AI to help you, then your only way to ensure that you're going to pass whatever KDP determines as being AI generated is if you're replacing at least 30% of that content with your own content, right? That's just how that goes. And it has to be your unique. And I think this is the the danger that we can run into as authors and writers is that we can get lazy, right? AI can make things quite easy for us, and we can get super lazy. So don't be lazy. Like that's the answer, right? Like what you are already thinking and what your the way that you write can be refined. You don't actually need AI to do that for you. And I know it's scary, but if you actually just button here and you just set a timer for 30 minutes a day and you just wrote, I can almost guarantee that, 80% of what you wrote is actually really good. And then you can use AI to refine it from that perspective. So yeah, so that's kind of but I'm a writer first, right? Like that I've been writing, I've had a diary for
Right.
years. So it feels easy to me. And I'm aware that that's not the same for
I think
everybody
most
else.
of us here are like that. Yes. Yeah.
So I think that, I think that that's the way that I would approach it. If I was using AI to kind of write a first draft, I would want to make sure that I had gone back through that and replaced at least 30% of that content. And if I'm honest, I'd probably end up rewriting the whole thing anyway. But it's just what
Lee, I think you have a take on this as well, don't you?
Yeah, well, I have to say, I mean, Lisa, when you said you'd have to go back and be an editor, the idea of going back to be an editor for something that ChatGPT, a book that ChatGPT wrote, makes my stomach clench. So, and I think it works just as well. You don't, even if your sentences are they're not sentences, even if they're fragments, even if they're just ideas. ChatGPT, well, I say ChatGPT because I'm so used to using that, but AI can do a lot more with that than you can imagine. And then you can so you begin it, it's your idea, then you can get ChatGPT to refine it and then take it back and make sure it actually sounds like you, which is, read it out loud. I mean, I've done that for years, long before, before computers. Well, I mean, they were whatever. But and I think that keeps it honest and it keeps it you. And, at a certain point, there are gonna be ways to detect if something is written by AI. I mean, there are already, but it's gonna become clearer and clearer. And I don't want to be caught in a place where it's like that that I have put something out there that's not actually mine. And I think, it always comes down to like my best writing advice across the board, no matter what we're talking about, is trust your instinct. And it's that instinct and the way humans do things that like there's studies that show that people can tell you have a feeling when AI has written something.
Mhm.
Trust yourself that you can put it out there, and you're always going to have people who are going to criticize you, but it's still you at least, and it's not a book that this AI wrote that probably doesn't make as much sense as what you would put out there.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Can I
Dave,
add something to that,
yeah,
Carrie?
I was going to get your thoughts on this as well. Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah. I I'm a person that I always like to say how people create words is their own business. And let me tell you why. I have been a ghostwriter. I have been a plotter for novelists. I have written for other people. I have worked with ghostwriters. I have co-written. I have done collaborations. I have worked with AI. So there's been very few ways as a writer over 20 years that I have not created a book. And so I don't like to limit that because I think you can still get a story. I think people as storytellers can love different parts of the story creation process. And everybody, their bag is not writing the words. I'm sorry. That is just not everybody who tells stories. This is why people get ghostwriters. I mean, it is what it is. So what I would say, if you are wondering like what makes you unique and how to personalize it, it's like you've got to bring yourself to the table. And how you bring yourself to the table is going to be unique to you, whether it's your ideation, if it's the twist that you put on it, if it's like the words that you like to use, if it's like the way you like to edit it. You just got to find a way to put your blueprint and your DNA all over that story that makes you feel like the storyteller that you want to be. And I think that's different for everybody. And I like when we are free to exercise that difference, because it's our business, right? But with that said, and if you don't feel like that's your bag, then do something else, right? Like maybe that's not for you because it's not for everyone. But I also don't think it should be shamed if someone does want to, because I've met people that they have really great ideas. They just don't like writing them. And that's okay. That's when they hire people. And so I would say if you're concerned about that, then you really got to find a way to infuse yourself in a way that feels authentic to you and that allows you to be a part of the creative process that makes you feel happy and that makes you have, find joy in the process.
Yep.
Great take. Thank you, Dana.
Yeah.
So listen, guys, we have a flat run out of time. And so I want to thank all of the panelists. This has been great. This has been, I think, one of the better panels we've had so far, and really appreciate everybody's input. Keep in mind, everybody, that the AI Writing Summit 3.0 is brought to you by High Level. And not only will we have 2 special presentations, actually, I shouldn't say that because one of them's been, I guess you can, Lisa, we can still get the recording on that, right?
Yeah, they can just go to the main stage and scroll down to day 2 and you'll be able to see the recording
Perfect.
for the special presentation. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there'll be 2 special presentations from High Level. Emma Jackson, the Senior Manager of Product Marketing over at High Level, will be doing those. One was earlier today, but that's on recording. You can still listen to that. And then the next one will be on Thursday, midday. And there's also going to be a raffle. And so be sure and join us midday Pacific time on Friday. And you could win an Apple iPad. I can never say that. An Apple iPad. And so the raffle is free, but you do need to register to attend. So there's a QR code for you. Scan that and get signed up, or there is a button on the bottom of the page here where you can click on that and get signed up for that raffle as well. And then also do not forget to grab your copy of the AI Writing Summit 3.0 Gold Pass. It'll give you lifetime access to all the recordings and transcripts from the entire summit, including both the keynote interviews and the panel discussions, as well as the special presentations. Plus, you'll get over $6,000 worth of courses and master classes and workshops and prompt engineering tutorials and just a whole ton of stuff in there, and all for less than probably a full tank of gas in your car. So there is a link on this page to the Gold Pass, and I think Lisa has put in the link to that as well in the chat box. And so the thing to do is go right now, click on that, go right now and grab your Gold Pass. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. Okay, listen, check out all the keynote interviews as they come available throughout the day and throughout the rest of the summit. And we will see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific, where we will do a deep dive into transforming ideation and problem solving across industries. And so, again, thanks to all the panelists. This has been awesome, and we will be in touch soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys.